Today, September the 1st, the church has as the beginning of the ecclesiastical year. The celebrating of the new year on January 1st is actually a relatively new phenomenon. It's only a couple of centuries old. Up until a couple hundred years ago, the new year was commemorated on September the 1st. And the biggest reason was an agricultural one. People planned the year out according to the farm. So the harvest was in August, and then the new year would start, September 1st. The harvest would be over, people would plow the fields, they would sow the seeds, and they would be ready next year to begin the process of growing and harvesting it. In some ways, it makes a lot of sense to have the beginning of the year in September. Practically speaking, in modern times, we start school now, new programs are starting now. And when the new year comes in January, we're generally mid-stride. Our children go to a new grade now in August, September. We start a new sports season, a new set of piano lessons or whatever we're doing. All the new things seem to start now. And so today we sing special hymns in the service and the gospel reading to reflect the new ecclesiastical year. In the gospel reading today, we see the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. He went to Nazareth. We know that he grew up in Nazareth. We don't know a lot of the details of his life. We know that when he was 12 years old, he went with his parents to the temple. That is chronicled in the Gospel of Luke. Presumably he was doing that every year. That was something that they did every year. We just read about it when he was 12 years old. We know that when he was 30, that's when his public ministry began. And before his public ministry began, he was baptized. He went into the desert for 40 days where he was tempted by the devil. And we read about that in Luke 4. And then today, and again, most of the way through Luke 4, we begin his public ministry with him sitting down in the temple. And by this time, he would have been well known among the people in the temple. We read that it was his custom to go to the temple every Sabbath and to read from the scriptures. And the day that he went, this particular day, he went and he opened the scriptures and he quoted the Old Testament book of Isaiah in what was a pretty bold move. He turned to the scripture passage that said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord." And then he closed the book and looked at all the people in the temple and said, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled." In other words, he's revealing himself as the person who's going to do these things. So that is a pretty bold move on the part of Christ. The lesson for us to take away from this particular passage of scripture, again, as we begin a new ecclesiastical year, is that all these things that were written in the prophecy of Isaiah about Christ, they actually can become true about us. The Spirit of the Lord is upon each of us in some way. There is no one who can walk away and say, "I have no Spirit of the Lord in me." That is not true. The Spirit of the Lord is on everybody in some way. And these specific things that Christ says, we may not be able to do these things specifically, but we're able to do them metaphorically. We may not give sight to someone who is blind. Perhaps a doctor will do that. But we can give spiritual sight to those who have never seen Christ. Everyone has the power to do that. We may not go on a military mission to rescue captives, but we can rescue people who are held captive by a lack of confidence, or a lack of friendship, or a lack of someone to talk to, or a lack of direction. There are plenty of people who are held captive by various things, and the Spirit of God is in each of us in order to release people from those things that hold them captive. To set at liberty those who are oppressed, again, oppressed by poverty, oppressed by a learning disability, oppressed by some kind of social ostracism. We all have the ability to set free those who are oppressed. And then in some way of our own, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. Most people these days are afraid of proclaiming their faith in the Lord. That can be as simple as wearing a cross around your neck and making sure your behavior matches the cross that you're wearing. If you're a person who speaks kindly of other people, who doesn't use bad language, who isn't gossiping, you're going to stand out from other people because everybody is using bad language, everybody is gossiping, and everybody is saying mean things. So the first way to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord is just to be a witness for the Lord, even a silent witness, just to set an example for people. This is important. As we begin a new year, if this was January 1st, we would all make some kind of a resolution for the year. What is our resolution? I encourage you not to wait until January 1st. If you haven't had a great 2019, you can change that today. You can make a resolution for the new church year or the remainder of 2019. I don't know how many of you remember the word that you picked at the beginning of 2019. How many people remember the word that they picked? How many people picked a word they don't remember what it was? That'll admit to it. All right. If you're sailing along on the word that you got for 2019, keep doing that. If you haven't been doing a great job with that, today's a good day to check in with that. And if you didn't do that, I encourage you to pick a word, any word, to let it define the rest of your 2019. That word may be hopeful, it may be organized, it may be whatever it is. Whatever word it is that you want to define the rest of your year, pick that and focus on that. But do something today and tomorrow that proclaims the acceptable year of the Lord. Again, it could be something as simple as driving home at peace, not like a maniac. September 1st has also been proclaimed the Day of the Environment by His All Holiness, our Ecumenical Patriarch, and there's an encyclical in the bulletin that I hope you'll take a few moments to read. Whether one subscribes to the various theories of what's going wrong in our environment right now, we know that there are two things very wrong in it. One, a hurricane, as I said, is barreling down on our state. Hurricanes are a result of the fallen world. When God made the world, He didn't make the hurricanes. He didn't make things to make people's lives more difficult. At the fall of mankind, Pandora's box, so to speak, opened up, and we call them natural disasters. They're not. Naturally, there were no disasters. These are fallen world disasters that befall us. Sometimes we have too much sun, and sometimes not enough. Sometimes we don't have enough water, and sometimes we have too much. Sometimes the wind blows gently, and sometimes it blows violently. The bad weather is the result of a fallen world, not natural disasters created by God. They're disasters of a fallen nature, rather. So this week we keep our prayers and our thoughts on the people that are affected by disaster and impending disaster. I'm so thankful that in our community we set aside funds every year to send to disaster relief. And as soon as we know what is needed, we will spring into action and send that. And as soon as we know things, tangible things that are needed, we will ask you to bring those things, clothing, whatever it may be, so that we can aid those who are in great need. So expect to hear something during the week, and expect to do something and bring something next week so that we can aid those who are in harm's way. Finally, on a good note, today marks 15 years since I arrived in Tampa. And was anybody here my first Sunday? Who was here my first Sunday? All right, you're all incorrect. You were here my second Sunday. The first Sunday, nobody was here, including me. There was a hurricane. We didn't have liturgy the first Sunday. So those who put your hands up were here the second Sunday. And I was here the second Sunday. But nobody was here the first Sunday. That'll be the forever trivia. Who came on Father's first Sunday? Nobody, including Father. So excited. We all skipped church. And the fourth Sunday that I was here, no one was here either. We missed 2 Sundays of the first month. I came in with a hurricane, with a storm. But seriously, I'm thankful to you, and I'm thankful to God that I'm here and that I have health and that I have all of you. My first Sunday, the church was half empty. There were 2 people in the altar, Ken and Charlie, and ours, 3 people in the altar. Now we have an army of altar boys and a full church even on a holiday weekend. So I'm thankful to God for that, and I'm praying that we'll have many, many more years together, worshiping, serving, and enjoying one another's company. I hope you have a wonderful and restful Labor Day holiday. Again, please pray for those in harm's way, and please pay attention to your emails. We'll be sending out information of what we can do to help with some disaster relief as it becomes known to us.